There's nothing wrong with being open with your emotions. There's nothing wrong with crying when you really need to release the pain, the stress. It's a natural body instinct for you to do that. And for you to hold that back and refuse your body's natural mechanism of releasing stress is just going to hurt you in the long run over time, if not sooner than later.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years.
So don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to be in touch with your emotions or to be sensitive. Especially for guys, all the guys out there, if you were ever told or raised or grew up thinking or being told that you are not supposed to cry, that real men don't cry, and all this other nonsense, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I don't want to offend anyone or anything, but that's a bunch of nonsense. It really is, because that's completely not true, and whoever said that, whoever told you that, isn't a real man to begin with, because real men do cry. And they were probably raised the same way to not cry, so it's like an endless cycle. So it's up to you, when you're aware, you're made known of the issue, to break the habit, to break the chain, so that you don't continue the same trend and teach your kids the same false information, and so on. So don't be afraid to be in touch with your feelings. A little story, those of you that have been subscribed to my channel since last winter anyway, around the holidays, I was working at Amazon, the fulfillment center, because I didn't, save up enough money. It was my first year full-time last year in lawn care, so I didn't have enough money to get me through the winter, so I wanted to make sure that I had some steady income coming in. So I worked at Amazon. I did overnights, and I still had lawn care here and there during the week. I still had leaf cleanups and some different jobs like that I was still doing, that I had to squeeze in. Like before I went to work at Amazon at night, or in the morning after I got like a couple hours of sleep after I came home. But it was definitely an interesting experience, to say the least. Anyone that's worked at a warehouse will know what I'm talking about. But it's, you just do the same thing. Everybody has their specific job, and you just do that over and over again for 10 hours every day. You have your set break times and lunch times that are always the same every day. Nothing ever changes. The entire department will go on break or lunch at the same time, and they stagger it all throughout, and it's a totally different atmosphere. And it was interesting, and it was an experience in the beginning, but it definitely got old quick, and that's definitely not my thing. I was really anxious to get back to lawn care and try and make sure that I prepare myself better for this coming winter, so that I don't have to work there or anywhere else, because that was never my plan. That was kind of like a emergency backup. But the point to my story is the amount of stress and exhaustion. I was working overnights, 10-hour shifts, till like 4 or 5 in the morning, mandatory overtime, 6 days most of the time, because it was during the holidays. And so I was just basically working and sleeping, and trying to find in time for some lawn care and to have dinner with my family and things like that. So, there was a lot of exhaustion and stress on me at that time, and thinking to myself, how do I avoid this from happening in the future? I can't do this anymore. How long, I didn't even know how long I was going to be able to hang in there at Amazon, but I ended up staying all the way till February, like through February or the beginning of February or something like that. So my lawn care season was already like full blown in swing, and I was still like finishing up my last 2 weeks at Amazon, so that was hectic too. But in addition to all that, the pressures of Amazon, or any other warehouse facility, I'm sure, but Amazon especially, because they're all about speed and efficiency, they have extremely high standards and goals, and all of their supervisors and managers and key people and all the different titles of people running around following up with you. I felt like I was in Office Space, the movie Office Space, sometimes, because like 4 different people would come up to me in the same shift and coach me on the same exact thing. And I'm like, don't you guys ever communicate? Like, the last 3 guys or girls already told me this. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry about that. This report just prints out, and we're just supposed to go around and follow up with everybody. And I'm just like, well, it's kind of like demotivating to keep hearing the same thing, and I'm just going to tell you the same thing I've told them. So it is really, really hardcore. They really want you to get the job done quickly and efficiently, and I don't blame them. I mean, when I order stuff from Amazon, my wife orders stuff from Amazon, we're ecstatic to get it like a day or 2 later, depending on where it's coming from and what kind of shipping we selected and all that. But regardless, it comes really quick, and we've always been happy. And if we had to return or exchange something, they've always been good. So I understand they have high expectations. But it's definitely difficult when you're in that scenario and you're not used to that kind of atmosphere and just constantly being followed up with, and just they're cracking the whip nonstop. And you have goals that you have to meet every hour, every shift, and they post it up on the board, after every break and lunch and everything, so everyone can see how everyone's doing for every department. So it just got intense, and I've never been one to be super fast at anything. I'm really good and efficient. I'm all about quality versus quantity. Very meticulous, very thorough, which they both basically mean the same thing, but very detail oriented. And I just like to take my time and do it right the first time. And I don't really know how to do things fast, unless I've done it like my entire life. Maybe just naturally it gets quicker. But that's just never the way that I've ever been. And it's difficult for me to try and go any faster than I naturally can go. Then I start making mistakes and stumbling around and fumbling things, and it just goes all bad when I try and force myself to go faster. So at Amazon, it like completely exposed that weakness, in me, and it added to the stress and anxiety that whole time as well. So it was just a really rough time. As much as I enjoyed certain aspects about working there and seeing all the cool stuff that they sell, things that I never even realized that they sold, things that I put in my shopping cart, my Amazon shopping cart or wish list, so that I could check out later, and some of the stuff I purchased, especially books, you just stop and read the summary real quick, and then scan it, put it in your bin, and then you move on to the next item. But aside from that, there was a lot of stress and anxiety for me, in addition to me being exhausted because I was working these crazy hours that my body wasn't used to working. So the ultimate point, now back to what I was trying to say, is with all that going on, I was extra sensitive, and I was almost convincing myself that it's impossible for me to make these goals. I'm never going to achieve these quotas, so on and so on. And then for some reason, I just decided to give it a try one night, and just start breaking it down on a piece of paper. How many units do I have to pick each quarter, they called it, before the next break, before lunch, before the final break, and then before we leave. Just breaking it all down, because a lot of the other guys and girls were doing that too, so they can stay on top of what they needed to make, so they can make their goals. So I was like, let me try that, and that helped keep me on track, and I was moving along pretty fast, and I had a really good night, and the whole time I was like right on the brink of making the goal for like the first time in like the couple of months that I had already been working there. And I finally, right by the skin of my teeth, finally made the goal and saw my name on the piece of paper, not below the line, not highlighted, or anything like that, saying that I, didn't make my goal. I was on the made the goal list, which is usually a short list, to be honest, but still, I made it, and it was kind of crazy, because on the way home, it it was like I just started like listening to to some music and thinking about what I had accomplished, as meaningless in the grand scheme of things as it might have been, making my units per hour, picked per hour goal at Amazon. It was the fact that I pushed myself to achieve a goal, and I actually made it. Not that I haven't made goals before in my life, but this was like, this was one of the hardest goals, because it's one of my weakest points of being fast and efficient. So I had to use everything and anything that I could to accomplish this goal, to stay focused the entire 10 hours, make sure I was coming back early from all my breaks and lunches, making sure that I was just on point the entire 10 hours. And as exhausting as it was, I made it. And something came over me, and I just started crying. I just started sobbing and crying in the car, driving home, in my truck, driving home, just crying and sobbing like a little baby. Like I've never cried before in my life, honestly, except when I was a little kid and a baby, But my whole adulthood, I've been used to holding in my emotions all the time, and I've been through a lot of stress and drama in my life over the past several years, and I think it all just bursted out, and I felt really good afterwards. I was by myself, so I didn't have anything to be embarrassed about, but I felt really good. And then it was almost like it's almost like I unlocked something in my brain, because now I realize that I could do more and I could be faster and efficient. Not necessarily to the level that other people might be. It doesn't mean I could make my goals every night after that at Amazon. It was still really difficult, but I definitely did a lot better and was a little more consistent now that I knew I could do it. And it was just crazy, because ever since then, now just in lawn care, I've almost doubled my productivity, the amount of lawns I can mow in a day, and the amount of different projects I can do. And it always used to be like a joke, like, oh, I'll be right back, or I'll do this real quick, and it was always like, oh yeah, right, you don't even know what that word means. And that was the truth. I mean, there was no quick for me. In my head, what I thought was quick, or I'll be right back, was a totally different definition than the average person. So it was really a struggle. But ever since I had that breakthrough, and I allowed myself to just kind of soak in the moment, I unlocked something in my brain and became better at different things. And now I can just get a lot more accomplished at work and at life. And I just felt like sharing that with you guys, because maybe that will help someone else out there. If nothing else, it'll help relieve some stress, to just let your emotions out. I'm not saying go crying over every little thing, the expression don't cry over spilled milk or anything like that. But there comes a time when you need to cry, and you know when it is, and you hold it in. You're like, you're trying to hold it in and be tough with the tough lip, and that's just not necessary. Just let it out. Who cares who's around you? My kids are like dying for the day to see me cry. They're like, you cry, Daddy? You've cried before? Like, they just hear a couple of stories here and there, and that's it. My wife's like, I've seen Daddy cry, like things like that, but it's like they've never seen it. And I don't want them to think that you have to be tough as nails in life and not cry, because that's the way you're supposed to be. That's not how I want my kids to be raised. So, that's something that I am becoming better at on my own, and hopefully passing that along and leading by example. And I just wanted to share that with everybody else that is watching. Just the bottom line is, there's no need to hold in your emotions. Just let it out. You'll feel a lot better when it's over, and you'll be surprised what things you might start accomplishing, or what things you might be able to do after that.